Maya had spent 3 weeks convincing herself that attending her ex-fiancé, Daniel's wedding, was the right thing to do. She had accepted the invitation out of pride, out of the stubborn need to prove to everyone in their small town of Millbrook that she was absolutely fine, that losing Daniel 2 years ago had not broken her, that she had moved on and rebuilt herself into someone stronger and more whole than the woman he had left behind. But standing in front of her bathroom mirror on the morning of the wedding, wearing a deep burgundy dress she had bought specifically for this occasion, Maya felt the confidence draining out of her like water through cracked tile. She had called James at 7 in the morning, barely giving him time to wake up, and asked him the question that had been sitting on the tip of her tongue for days. James was her colleague, her friend of 4 years, a quiet and dependable man who brought coffee to the office every Friday and always remembered how she took hers, oat milk, no sugar. She had never thought of him as anything more than that. And when she asked him to be her date for the wedding, she had framed it purely as a favor, a way to avoid walking into that church, alone and giving the town gossips, something new to whisper about. James had said yes without a moment's hesitation, and that had been enough for Maya at the time. She hadn't thought too deeply about why. James arrived at her apartment at 10 o'clock, wearing a charcoal gray suit that fit him so well she almost didn't recognize him. He handed her a small bouquet of white wildflowers and said, very simply, that she looked beautiful. And the way he said it, without performance, without flattery, just quiet and certain, made her throat tighten in a way she didn't fully understand. They drove to the church together, and James kept the conversation light and easy, telling her a ridiculous story about his neighbor's cat that made her laugh hard enough to forget, for a few minutes, where they were going and why. When they walked into the church and she saw Daniel, standing at the altar with his bride, a woman named Claire who was graceful and radiant and everything Maya had once feared she wasn't. Maya felt a cold wave move through her chest. But James placed his hand gently at the small of her back. Not dramatically, not with any kind of statement, just steady and present. And somehow that small gesture held her together through the entire ceremony. At the reception, Daniel approached them. He shook James's hand and looked at Maya, with the practiced warmth of a man who wanted to appear unbothered. He said something about how glad he was she could make it, something about how she seemed well, and then his eyes flicked to James, with a flicker of something that might have been surprise, might have been envy. Maya smiled and said she was wonderful, and she meant it more than she expected to. It was later in the evening, when Maya slipped away to the garden for a breath of cool air, that she found something that changed everything. She had sat down on a stone bench near the rose hedges when she noticed an older woman sitting nearby, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Maya recognized her. It was Elaine, Daniel's aunt, a warm and sharp-eyed woman who had always been kind to Maya during the engagement. Elaine looked up and reached out to take Maya's hand and said quietly that she had always believed Daniel made a terrible mistake letting her go. Then Elaine said something else. She said that James, the man Maya had brought today, had come to her 2 weeks ago when he found out through a mutual friend that Maya was planning to attend this wedding alone. He had asked Elaine privately whether Maya still had feelings for Daniel, because he needed to know before he said something he had been holding inside for over a year. Elaine had told him the truth, that Maya was going out of pride and pain, not love. And so James had waited, hoping Maya would ask him to come with her. And when she finally did, he had said yes in less than a breath. Maya sat very still in the garden with the evening air cooling her face and tears, moving quietly down her cheeks. She thought about 4 years of Friday coffees and gentle laughter, and a man who had learned every detail of who she was while she had been too busy looking elsewhere to notice that she was already loved. She walked back inside, crossed the room, and when James looked up and saw her face, he stood without being asked, opened his arms without being told, and held her in the middle of that wedding reception like she was the only person in the room worth holding. And for the first time in 2 years, Maya stopped being fine and started being happy. If this story moved your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, where every story is a reminder that love, when it's real, has always been quietly waiting right beside you.